Good morning, church. Good morning, Pastor. I'm very happy today because it ended in praise. And I don't know, but I am standing here as a living testimony because God showed up. In this 14 days of fasting, the enemy came to steal what belongs to me, but God said no. On Friday, I was on my way to church. That was like 4 to break my fast. And I got a call from home and they said, oh, my dad slumped and everything. I had to say, okay, where is he? He said, it's at home. I called my mom immediately. She was crying. I said, we don't cry here in Nsppd. I do not want you to cry. I said, where is your mantle? She said, it's there. I said, put it on top of his head. I said, the only thing I need you to do for me is just the OED prayer. Let me get people that will take him to the hospital. So immediately she said, okay, she put the mantle, she put the mantle on his head. She started praying OED prayer. I ended the call. Immediately I started kabashing. I said, le kadabo sanda, le handabo shanda. Not on my watch. Not when I am on this altar, not even when I am fasting, not even on Friday when Papa declared and said that dry bones shall live again. You came too late. The devil came late, not under my watch. So immediately I was able to call a few friends. I called a doctor friend. I said, my dad is, they said my dad collapsed. I'm sending him to you. He said, oh, he's going to pick his kids, but he's going there immediately. I said, please. Immediately I had to call a few friends that were in Port Harcourt and they moved to go and take my dad there. So when he got there, I reached out to the doctor. He said, your dad is not good. He's unconscious. He can't even move. He can't do anything. I said, no problem. The Lord, I told them, I said, I'm going to church. I'm going to break my fast. And when I got to church, I was at the back. I prayed and I cried. I said, oh God, you said, oh God, that we shall not mourn. We shall not sorrow. It shall end in praise. I was not scared. I prayed on Friday. So when I go home and I was following up on the call, and when my mom said, oh, he has started responding small. And later, that was like towards midnight, they called me. My mom started shouting, EL-Roi, EL-Roi. I said, what is it? She said, my dad cannot breathe again, that they want to take off the oxygen, that they are asking that they want to move him out of where he was to another hospital. I said, how? Move from where? And immediately, I was sitting in the sitting room with my younger ones. I entered inside. I went to my altar. I said, Lord, this is not what you told me. You said it will end in praise. Papa said that we should send everything to God's hand. And I know, Papa declared that word. That was on Friday. And Papa said, nobody leave anything in the hands of God. Nobody leave anything in the hands of God. I will not see the hands of God in it. Because you have left the dry bone in the hands of the Lord shall manifest. I held on to that word. I say, the devil, you came late. Oh, Papa has already declared this. And when I came to church on Friday, I dropped my father in the altar of God. So you cannot even take him. So immediately I reached out to my doctor friend and I said, what's going on? He said that your father's BP is over 200. His sugar level, we can't even read it. It's beyond reading. I said, okay, devil, you lied. You came late. Immediately, I went to my room. I knelt down. I say, oh, Ed, you shall not receive my father. You shall not receive my father until I say so. And mind you, all my siblings, they were fasting and they are on the altar of fire. So immediately, we started putting calls around and everybody was declaring, not under our watch, not when we are in this altar. We cannot even lose anyone. So immediately, we left him and the doctor said, okay, I'm going to manage him till morning and see how it goes. I said, no problem. We just need more time because God is going to perfect his work. So throughout that night, we're just praying. We're praying and we're believing God. And towards in the morning, my brother sent me a message and said, he's awake. He asked for water. I said, okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. And mind you, the doctor said that because he fell and his BP is very high, that we should expect that he's going to go into stroke and everything. That's my father sitting down there. He even told me, he said, long life shall God satisfy me. I am not dying. I am going to reap the fruit of my labor. So I am here to give all praise. Because Papa said, and we held on to that word and we said, Papa said we should repeat after him. I am alive. I am alive. I am a quickened spirit, I am a quickened spirit, a life-giving spirit. Hear me now. You cannot be alive and bury anything around you. I said, the devil came late because I will not bury my father. I will not bury because I am on this altar of God. Nothing dies around me. Everything come alive. So I am here to say thank you, Jesus, the doer of all things. Before this morning, when Papa was dancing and was praising, it was as if Papa was reading my heart because that was around 11 when they told me my dad was awake and I spoke to him. I put on my status and I said, what God cannot do does not exist. It ended in praise. So when Papa gave me a confirmation word today, I say, the devil, you don't know who you're joking with. This our generation is not a generation where we sit down and we fear. It's a generation where we say, what God cannot do does not exist. Immediately, I want to say, Lord, I thank you. Papa, you're too much. I don't even know how to explain. Because why? You have taught us how to pray. Things that are supposed to make us scared, things are supposed to make us fear. We don't fear here. Just the way I told my mother, I said, we don't cry here. The highest you can cry, you cry on the altar. After you cry on the altar, when you're going, you clean your eyes. Because what God cannot do does not exist. Thank you, church.